Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, even though it might not look like it, the M104 Turbo C180 is actually closer than ever to being back up and running. So it's been about a year since I had the privilege to drive this thing after blowing its fourth head gasket. Then I decided to do a few upgrades. So building a new turbo manifold for the Chinesium GT35 turbo, and then of course fixing the blown head gasket, and also building a new intake manifold with a now bigger 76mm throttle body. Even got a little bracket made and the throttle cable on there. Already got started on a few smaller things yesterday, like the throttle cable. I also added this. It's like a heat shield sleeve that goes over this water line that runs into the turbo, because it gets super close to the turbo manifold. So hopefully that'll work and we won't have any issues with that. I think we'll be fine with the other coolant line that goes from the turbo and into the head at the back. Then looking under this cover, I got 6 spark plugs in there, as well as getting the coil packs back on there. And then I went ahead and got the fuel pressure regulator mounted in its place. Got the coils wired up, as well as the injectors plugged in and a few other things. Then I moved on to the front. I got the fan belt back on there, because with the radiator in there, it's super difficult to get to that fan belt. So that's back on there. And then I also added the one coolant line that runs from the head to the thermostat housing. So with all that ready to go, the only thing left to do is to figure out the cooling system, and then we'll move on to the intercooler and the boost pipes. Now, with the new turbo manifold that I built, there's no space left for the old coolant bottle. So I'm gonna have to build a new coolant bottle, plus figure out where I'm gonna mount it, and then plumb it into the cooling system. So let's do that. And just like that, we have a new coolant bottle for the M104 Turbo. Now, not to toot my own horn, but with every fabrication job with aluminium I do, I get better and better every single time, if I do say so myself. Definitely not the best welder out there, but I'm just happy I can weld aluminium, or have the ability to weld aluminium to build stuff that I need. The next decision I had to make was where to mount this new coolant bottle. So as we know, the old coolant bottle sat in this location. Now there's a couple of things to think about when mounting the coolant bottle. So number one, it has to be higher than the engine so that it can bleed itself out. That just helps a lot. I need to get it back here somewhere and as high as possible. So this would have been a cool location, but I think in this area there's going to be a lot of extra heat, so we don't want that. And I also do need to build a catch can, and I'm thinking this area would be perfect for that. So I mounted the new coolant bottle over there. Ta-da! Yeah, so I don't know if that looks good or bad or weird, but it is what it is, and the cooling system is now 100% complete. Let me try to kind of explain what we have going on. So let's start over here. So this is a thermostat housing, so that just connects up with a port in the head. I know this is kind of kinked, but when the engine is hot, that pressurizes and it kind of expands and fixes itself. Water runs into the radiator, and then down there I had to use the old fitting that goes into the radiator, so I just cut up the old piece of hose. Then that runs through that pipe and then over to this side and back up, and then it goes into the water pump over there. So that's basically the radiator flow system. And then to tie the new coolant bottle into it, I just added a little T-piece over there, and then that pipe runs into the new coolant bottle. And then for the system to kind of bleed itself, you have one nipple on the thermostat housing, and then that runs into the top of the new coolant bottle. So it should bleed itself kinda. So I'm about 95% sure this will work. So for the cooling system for the turbo, we have the one hose coming out from the engine block, and then it runs into the head, like I said before. So that is the cooling system complete. So much stuff going on in this engine bay. But anyway, moving on, I do want to get started on the intercooler. So slight modification needs to be done to that, which I'll show you in a second. But before we do that, I do want to modify this crash bar that I built, because I have no way to tow the vehicle or to hook a rope to it if I break down and tow it. So I'm thinking I'm going to do the same as I did on this. A couple of videos ago, I added these little tabs on the crash bar so that I can hook that A-frame to it and then pull it like that. So I'm basically going to do exactly the same to this one, and I'll also paint it red. I just think that looks sick. And then we can modify the intercooler and get that back on the car, and then we can start with the boost pipes, add the blow-off valve, and then also get the power steering cooler lines back in there. And then we should be very close to start testing this thing again. But I am also waiting on the ECU. So I have this ECU in this car. Or I can't really remember, but I had issue with one of the ECUs. So I think I pulled this ECU and got it into this to get that back up and running. Or I can just get that ECU, plug it in here, and we should be able to start up the car. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let's get back to work. Well, gosh darn it, coming out to this this morning definitely put a smile on my face. But let's move on and get that intercooler sorted out. The outlet on the compressor side is a 67 mil, then it goes down with a 67 mil and into this 90 I made for the blower valve. Then it has another 90 that steps it down even further to a 57. So this intercooler, in all honesty, might be a bit small for the engine, but I mean, we aren't chasing very big numbers on the boost level, so this is gonna have to work, or I can make some improvements for it to work just a little bit better. So that side with the blower valve is gonna stay exactly the same. I can reuse all that piping, and then I might just port it out a little bit on that inlet, and then moving over to this side, because we have the 76 throttle body up there, I'm thinking I'm gonna cut it off here, and then I'll get a piece of 76 mil aluminium tube welded onto that, and then from there on out it'll be 76 mil, and connect up to that pipe over there with a few pie cuts, and then run all the way up into the throttle body, and that should be all the boost pipes ready to go. So let me get this off, port that side, weld that side, get it back on, and we should be good. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. So it's getting dark outside, and I thought I would just end this video off in the light. So intercooler is welded and on the car, and it looks freaking sick. So I just need to get a few hose clamps in town to finish that up, and then I do need to figure out some fuel lines, fix a few of those, and get all the boost lines or the vacuum reference lines connected up to the wastegate, the dump valve, the ECU, the boost gauge, everything like that. Few things I need to iron out, and then we should be able to start up the car for the very first time in almost a year. Can't believe it's been that long. But I think I made some major progress in this video, so looking forward to the next one. I'm sure we'll start it up in the next video I make of it, but I think the next video is going to be on the A180. We might get that tuned next week, so stay tuned for that. I do videos weekly, and that's why I got in a rush today to finish up the intercooler. So the welds don't look that good. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Oh, and thanks for watching.